and Plancy coming at you. I don't know when this is going to drop. I think on a Wednesday, maybe? Question mark? I don't know. Anyway, here with a great episode, we have another artist interview. Today, we interviewed Ibu Karel, a longtime friend and just very, very talented artist, Brooklyn-based. That went really well. But before we get into it, I just really want to say that, I know that production slowed down a little bit just because personal life and mental health stuff. But I really want to thank everybody who makes this podcast happen. Whether you were a guest, you're a listener, you're Cameron, whoever you are, you guys have made this really special for me and makes it something that I'm really passionate about. And I just want to thank you guys. Just want to let you know that I'm very thankful for everyone, people who, will see me in person and talk to me about it, or, you hit me up and you're like, man, this is a great episode. That stuff means a lot to me. So I want to thank everyone who takes time out of their day to, listen to this passion project that we kind of do on a wing and a prayer. And again, if you're a guest and you took time out of your days, out of your lives to appear on the podcast, if you've appeared on stream, whatever it is, just thank you guys. It's a hard time for everyone. So to know that we have that support is, it's really special. Took a long time, but joined as always by my lovely co-host Cameron. Cameron, how are you doing today?
I am big chillin', enjoying the day, enjoying the Christmas spirit.
Fuck yeah. We're gonna get into it, but if you're not already, make sure you're following us on Twitter, on Instagram at plan_c_podcast. We have a YouTube channel. We are live there every Friday. Probably not this Friday though, because whole Christmas thing. But beyond that, we're there. We love interacting with you guys. We appreciate people who show up for stream. And that's all I got. Cameron, you got anything else before we get into it?
No, not really. Hope you guys are enjoying your time. Hope you guys enjoyed the pod. It was a blast making it. And yeah.
Facts. Get your boosters. Merry Christmas, bitches. Here we go. And we are back today. As you can tell by the lovely title and our fantastic intro, we are joined by Ibu Karel. Ibu, how are you doing today, man?
Good. Thanks for having me.
So, for those who don't know, Ibu is an artist based out of New York. I guess would you prefer singer to artist, or what would you describe yourself as?
It's kind of corny, but I kind of sometimes say multi-man because I feel like I do a lot of stuff.
Word.
Definitely singing is my number one trained medium, but I do a bunch of other stuff too. But when I introduce myself to someone, I usually say I'm a singer because it keeps it simple.
Word. So multi-man / singer Ibu. Thanks for joining us today, man. Appreciate you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a longtime fan of the pod, longtime listener as well.
Appreciate you.
And longtime friend of you too. So when you guys came to me and said, we want you on the pod, I literally instantly accepted. Yeah, honored to be here. I mean, I love chatting with you guys anyway. So just to do it on the record for people is a double fun whammy.
Yeah, of course. And, we like having artists and just people who are from Brooklyn, who live in Brooklyn, who are sort of making an impact here. We've just enjoyed interviewing people, whether they're a visual artist, something with music, whatever it is. We love people from Brooklyn, so we're gonna platform some people. Yeah,
especially
Brooklyn,
creators in the community.
Facts.
Glad to be here. Thanks, guys.
So, when did you start getting into music? What was the thing that pushed you to be like, this is what I want to do with my life? I want to make music. I want to, do vocals. What was the thing that sort of started that?
Well, I've been doing music since I was 4. I started playing violin when I was 4.
Nice.
I played for 10 years until I was 14. And then when I was applying for high schools around the city, I applied to LaGuardia, which is a specialized high school. If you're not familiar, I'm sure many of the listeners of the show are familiar. And so I applied for violin. And then the night before the audition, I decided, hey, I want to try for singing too. And I'd never trained in singing before. So I ended up getting into the school for both. And I went for singing, because I was a little I just didn't want to play violin anymore. I just didn't feel like it was like calling me in the same way. And I was like, you know what? Singing could be really fun. Like I have done so much of my largest, based so many of my largest life decisions just purely off what's going to be the most fun in the long term. Because like, I think it's really important to have that in life. Like you want something that you're doing to be really like dynamic and enjoyable. So that's probably a huge reason why I gravitated towards singing over time, because once I started studying it in high school, I never knew I was going to try to go pro with it or anything like that at all. But as I just did it more and more, I was like, this is one, I don't need any extra equipment. I can just do it. And so that, different than any other instrument I'd played so far, that was really appealing to me because I didn't need to drag a violin around. I could just go.
Yeah, you don't need to tune some vocal cords.
Right. You know, you got to warm up, but yeah, exactly. And at the same time, like then I saw some musicals they did at my school, and at LaGuardia, the musicals are pretty high quality. So when I saw that, a few of those shows, my feeling the entire time when I was watching it was just, I want to be doing that. Like, I was just like, I want to be on the stage. So once I realized that I really wanted to be part of the show and not watching the show, and every time it's still to this day, whenever I watch a show, like a real life theater show or concert or something, my feeling is the same. I'm just like, I would rather be on there than watching. So that's kind of why it's just like something very deep within my personality. I just love to perform and give emotion to people, and my vessel to do that is singing.
That's amazing,
that's dope.
man.
Yeah, that's cool as fuck.
You mentioned LaGuardia, which we are, of course, very familiar with.
No, lots of alum.
We know many alum from many different age ranges. But one thing that's pretty interesting is every time we talk to someone that goes to LaGuardia, they always have kind of a different experience that they talk about. And I was kind of wondering, how did your schooling at LaGuardia kind of impact your artistic,
path?
LaGuardia, you had to be there all day, like, and I'm sure some people can relate to this, but the school is also pretty far from the neighborhood that the 3 people on this pod right now grew up in. It's like almost an hour away. So
don't dox us now.
I just said it's almost an hour away. That's a radius. So basically, it was just such a dedication to get there and do it all day that at LaGuardia, by the time you get to the senior year, it's weeded people out. Like, you either love doing your art or you don't. And there's almost no in between. I didn't find almost any in between. It's either just people who are like, yup, I can I curse on this podcast?
Of course.
Okay, people are like, yeah, I fuck with this. Like, I want to sing, I want to play piano, I want to do art or act. And then people who are just like, you know what? I went through this super intense like schooling where you're there from 8 to 4 every day. You got 10 periods. You don't get to leave the building. You know, you're grinding. The academics are no joke too. Like, you know, people from that school go to like pretty damn elite universities. So academics definitely are nothing to like sniff at. But, you know, by the time you get to the end of your time there, you realize people either like to do what they were here for, or they completely don't care about it anymore. And that was kind of my experience going through there. I ended up being one of the people who like to do it, but you got to like sacrifice a lot because a lot of time. And like when you sacrifice time, you're sacrificing other things like time you could spend with other people doing other stuff and like making friends or going out. Like in high school, I was pretty social, but there were people who were way, way, way more social than me. And so I guess at LaGuardia, like one of the main things I learned was just like how to ride the grind. Like if you're gonna grind, how can you make it enjoyable and like surround yourself with people who you enjoy being with, so as you're grinding, you don't really mind it as much.
Trial by fire.
Yeah, seriously.
Exactly. Yeah. Trial by fire. And yeah, basically, like if you were at LaGuardia and you didn't like your major, you just probably stopped. You just don't do it at all. And there was a very stark, and I'm sure you could draw lines even going out of LaGuardia, like 10 years down the line, like those same people who liked what they were doing, like there's a decent chance they're still doing it. But the people who didn't like what they were doing, I would bet there's almost no chance they're doing it.
I mean, that makes sense. I think you saying that you base a lot of your life decisions off of what is going to be more fun is really interesting to me, because a lot of people don't do that, and they're looking for, what's going to be best for me in the future. And I think if, more people sort of focused on the happiness and fun in life, I think, we would definitely be in a different position in the world. But I guess what I'm trying to say is I really respect that, that's how, you're making your decisions, because that's really hard to sometimes be like, you know what? Like, I'm doing this for me. And a lot of times people don't understand it, but I don't know. Again, I really respect it.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard because when you do make decisions with that in mind, like when I make a decision, I guess fun is a bit of it kind of generalizes it, and I used the term, but really what I look for is like fulfillment and a challenge that I know will be really fulfilling if I can do it. So like, and it has to be fun. So like when it came to doing shows on stage and doing musicals and operas and stuff, like I had no prior training, but then I was kind of just thrust into it by auditioning and happening to get some roles in high school. So then I was like, kind of had to learn on the fly, and that was like a crazy challenge, but then it ended up being so satisfying and fulfilling by the end that I was like, yeah, like I definitely got to keep going. Like I got to listen to that kind of itch more, because it's just satisfying. Like it's just very satisfying to achieve something that you thought was hard.
That's dope. I completely understand that when it comes to like, there's a huge project and you don't necessarily know if you can do it or not. By the time you reach the end, it kind of feels like you've learned so much that those past thoughts are like, it's not even like something in the back of your mind anymore. But
right, you're right. You're like, you went from being like, how am I going to do this, to once you finish it, you're like, oh, that's how I did it. And that thought is like, when you can say that's how I did it, that's a crazy feeling.
For sure. And speaking of things that you're proud of and achievements, you dropped an album this year.
Facts.
This Too Shall Pass, released in 2021. Ibu Karel. Hit it up on Spotify, hit it up on all streaming services. You heard it here.
Facts.
But yeah. How was the process for making that, man?
That album, a lot of it was actually made pre-COVID. So I would say the origination of the album was like from late 2019. That's when like some of the beats were started, and I remember doing that. And then it got to 2020. Actually, I'll say not even gonna lie, like late 2018. Like that's when I started like one of the earliest beats on that, and then I worked through it all through 2019. And like half of 2020, finished it, but then the pandemic hit, and I really wanted to do an in-person event to celebrate with my friends, because really I I just didn't want to drop it like digitally during the pandemic with no fanfare. For me, like I wanted to celebrate with the people that I care about and my friends and loved ones, and like we finally got to do that. In October, you guys came to the after party, which was amazing, and
Great time.
yeah, thanks for coming. It was lovely to see you guys, and
It was terrible seeing you. I hated every second.
so the process of making the album though is just like besides the fact that I made it pre-COVID, named it pre-COVID, and then COVID hit, which made it the title all the more applicable, which I thought was super hilarious and ironic. It was the album was largely inspired by a relationship that I, that went bad. So a lot of it is like it's self-reflective, it's in my bag type shit, but also not all sad boy. Like there's really upbeat stuff on there too. And I felt like what was really important when I was making the album from a music standpoint was that I wanted to have an album that flowed through and had like a really nice flow. And like so I was focusing on those things and pushing myself using Ableton, which is a music software that I was new to like at the top of 2019. I mean, I got good at it like over the next few years up until now, but I'm kind of rambling. I guess to sum it up, the album was the most intensive music project I'd worked on. I made all the beats myself except for one, and wrote the lyrics and did all that stuff. And so it was just really, really an amazing challenge that it felt great to put out and like let people listen to. And yeah, after that, like it wasn't about the numbers of how many streams it got for me. It was really just about like, can I do this? And yeah, it felt really great.
Word, that's awesome. And I like that, you're vulnerable. A lot of people who put out hard stuff and be like, oh, this and this, but it's not, it's hard to connect to because you're like, okay, well, how do I relate to this, But when artists are vulnerable, I don't know about you guys, but I certainly take more from the music because I'm like, well, I feel like I'm learning something. Yeah, just a little note from me there. For a while there, just on the topic of an album, you're making EPs and you're making singles. What in your process, what was different about doing an album versus like individual projects for you?
Good question. The difference about doing an album is that, like I said before, I really wanted the album I made to flow and be cohesive in a really strong and an intentional way. Like I wanted the listener to listen through and notice like, okay, this was structured in a very specific way, and it's not just like songs thrown together. Like for me, that's the difference between an EP and an album, I guess, but that's just my opinion. Like other people, these are very vague terms, but I feel like an EP for me, or maybe the difference between a demo tape and an album. Like demo tape, you just take a bunch of songs and you just, oh yeah, those are my songs from like that month. Cool, let's drop it. Like, and there's not really much connection maybe, but with the album, it was different than a single or a small project. Was that it was about 31 minutes and I needed to make 31 minutes feel like 10, so it's like, how do you make 30 minutes be so cohesive and engaging you can't let the audience's attention drop. Like that was what I was trying to do. Whether the audience dropped attention or not is up to them. You can't guarantee it, but at least for me, that's what I was aiming as much as possible to do. Was like, especially if you listen to the album, the first three songs go straight into one another. So you can listen to it and get through those first three songs and not notice that there was any cut between the songs.
Yeah, it's concept. Isn't that what they call it? Yeah.
A concept album, I guess, would usually has like a very strong theme that's like I can't think of one right now, but yeah, it's like it has a really strong theme that everything's written around, like the Black
Pink
Parade
Floyd
by
has a ton of them.
yeah, Pink Floyd has a ton of them. Black Parade by My Chemical Romance is like one that I think of for concept album, because that in that album, like the main character, there's like a character and he's dying from cancer.
I had no idea that was a concept album.
Yeah. My album didn't have like a concept in that way, but the concept, you are right that the concept of like continuity, that was definitely a strong theme for me. So that was like one goal I was trying to do with this project that was different than other things, was that, yeah, I wanted to make it feel super smooth through, that if someone was just listening, they could get caught up in the listen and get halfway through the album without even realizing it. That was kind of my goal.
I definitely feel that, because when you were talking about the flow of the album, that was one of the more interesting things that I noticed when I was listening through, was that, well, he, she, and I actually remember you showing that to us like a few years ago, and I was like, oh, that's dope. That's like something that I remembered. But then it went into immediately Rabbit Hole, which is like a 45-second production. And as I was getting through it, I realized the intro was the 6th song on the album, and the outro was the 9th song when there are 11 songs. And I was just interested to know, like, what was your kind of thought process with that? Was it more of like this is how you wanted to sound going through, versus like the way that you're titling them, or is there like a specific creative process that kind of eventually led you to this order?
So originally the album had 7 songs and it was the same length, but I recut it because this was actually having to just do with streams, and just people's attention span. The songs when there were 7 songs, each song was pretty long. Like they could be like 3.5 to 5.5 minutes. And when I was thinking about it, well, then I learned that one Spotify stream is only 30 seconds. So I was like, wait, if I just take the intros and the outros for certain songs in like specific sections and just cut those into their own tracks, then 1, I might be able to boost the numbers. 2, if someone just wants to jump straight into the meat and potatoes of the song and doesn't want to listen to the minute-long intro, that's cool. And like I like when artists do that, like like I think it's fine when artists do that. A lot of the artists I like on albums, like they have like on My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, there's like All of the Lights intro and All the Lights. And like that probably was one song at one time. And then they were just like, you know what, let's just cut it into 2 so people don't have to listen to the string intro every time. Even though it's a beautiful string intro, sometimes you just want to jump into the song. And was my thought process as well.
Oh,
yeah.
Sorry to jump in, but
of course.
If you're in the middle of the, like, to answer your question, Cam, if you're in the middle of the album and it says like Raw Affection intro, that was just Raw Affection. That was just like the beginning of Raw Affection at one time. And then I was like, I'll just make this an intro, because if someone wants to just jump into the song, so be it. More power to them.
I fuck with that. And it's interesting to hear sort of the behind the curtain of this all, and sort of your thought process going through this. Now, you had mentioned back in 2018, so when you were working on this, you were still in school, yeah?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not gonna say what school you were in, because I don't want to do that to you. But you were away at school, and do you find that your artistic process is different when you're not, like, because I'm assuming you do most recording from your home?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, if you could just speak on the differences between, being in a comfortable place like home and doing this, and then being X amount of miles away from where you usually do it and still having produced. What's sort of that like?
Oh, I definitely much prefer to make music out of my home.
Out of your, interesting.
Like it can be in my bedroom, but I guess being in Brooklyn, currently staying at my family's home, it's just it's harder to get into that groove, because music for me, like the creation cycle of it is so like personal and I really gotta and it's loud. Like I like to have those speakers be loud. Like so if I'm blasting like some random thing for like, and also the process of making music, you will be looping something for a while, like often. Like you will be looping a 10-second section for like 2 hours. And like that is sometimes not conducive to like a healthy home dynamic because people will be like, why are you looping that shit for 2 hours? I'm like, I have to, like, I'm finessing it. So, and or then I'll be like doing some vocals and like I'll just have to be singing at the top of my lungs, like the same thing for like 45 minutes, trying to get that perfect take. Again, not really great for home life because people are trying to work and stuff. And then also if I'm singing about something super personal, like some like sexual encounter I had with an ex or something like that, like, do I really want to be singing that loud and proud next to my dad?
That's a fact.
Like it's hard. So whenever I'm out of the house, I feel so much more like liberated and just can go and feel like I feel no holds barred. But when I will say, like, when I'm here just in my family's house, like in my room, it's pretty hard to like I'll make beats, but it's not at the same, like, it's hard to get into that, okay, I want to make a song right now. But like the second I'm free or like the house frees up, that comes and I feel that like feeling immediately. So when I'm home, I kind of just pivot my music itch into a different channel, which is playing piano and like practicing piano.
Word.
Yeah.
I don't know why I was necessarily surprised, but it makes sense that, because of, even when you're living with people, no matter if it's your parents or not, blasting loud music can certainly be seen as, hey, you're being a bad roommate. So I guess I hadn't really considered that when, you were talking about your sort of process. But that I like that, the more sort of uncomfortable you are, it seems like that is when you're going to produce your best stuff. I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, but I don't know. That's kind of just seems what kind of works for you, is that when you're in the fire, that's when you're learning the most.
Yeah, definitely. And also, it kind of like it's fine the way it is right now. And I know, things are going to change, going to go get my own place, blah, 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 going to have space and time and all that. But even in this current circumstance where I'm like living with my family, it's fine because when I get the chance to go to a friend's house and bring my laptop and like hook up, or we go and I just can go somewhere or have like that freedom to make something. It's like it's been building up this whole time, building up, and then the dam just like explodes, and then like there's just like a flow, like it's just been that creative energy has just been building up the entire time. So it's really like not that bad because I'm not a believer also in like make a beat a day. Like I don't believe in that because it's just not my process. Like I just wouldn't want to do it. Like I'm not that kind of person who's like I try to practice piano every day because I want to get better at it. I could make a beat every day to get better at it, but I also feel like that's that will just like tap into too much. Like I would just start to feel forced. And once I start to feel forced with the music, I just don't like, I just close the computer because it's like, this should never feel forced. This should feel completely like natural to come out. So it's okay. Like I can be patient with the music making process because I know like when I'm in that right setting to make it, the right stuff will come. And that's always when I've made my best music.
Word.
I definitely feel that. And it's like, and I also feel you about like working at home, like especially like for me, like if someone's like watching my creative process, I'm like being a visual artist, like it does kind of make me a bit uncomfortable, whether it be like my family, friends, or strangers. So
right,
like you have to be kind of like around the right people and in the right environment to like really get that type of motivation to like really get the gears start turning.
Right. And like being creative, and it's not. I think that once you not you, like anybody, once an artist can boil down their process to be executable at any time, any place, is that even really art? Like, is that even really being creative anymore? Because then, like, it's like if you're a craftsman, maybe it's different. Like, you know how to make a chair, no matter what or where you're at. But like, if you're drawing or you're making a song, and like, Cameron, you got to think of characters off the top of your head, and like, if you had a formula to make the characters, and like think of their attributes and their traits and their personalities, like, would it really be creative?
Mm.
So that's interesting, because
Or
like,
would it just be your process that is repeatable, like an algorithm?
yeah, because it's interesting. That's a very interesting point, because to some extent with visual art, there's a lot of things that are kind of formulaic in terms of like when you're building a character, there's the anatomy, and then there's things perspective and more math-like things that are very much like more craftsman-like. But I feel like in every artistic genre, there's some aspect that can only be that you have to get like a spark of inspiration in order to create whatever you're doing. You know what I mean?
Right. And like,
Yeah. And you
go
have to
ahead,
be in
yeah,
the
go
right
ahead.
environment, and you have to be in like the right mind state, or you have to be thinking about the right thing in order for that to come together. So it's not it like for that like artistic spark, I completely agree that there has to be something specific that ignites that in order for you to have something that's like truly creative and interesting.
Right. Like I mean, let me elaborate, because that's a great point. Like, the techniques are repeatable, and that's like where you get the refinement. Like, when you're drawing, you understand, like, every character, if it's humanoid, will need humanoid features. Like, those, you can't get away from that. That doesn't mean you're not being creative, but it's really like, within those parameters, are you allowing yourself to be creative, or are you like boiling it down to one thing? And I don't think with your medium you could do that. I don't think it's even really possible, and I don't think with my medium it would be that possible either. But like, sometimes, like, I go on YouTube and I see like an ad like, hey, like, this is my masterclass for how to write a pop song, and I'm like, if you could do, it's like, if you could do it that easily, is that even really like it? Like, is that even it? It's like, if you can learn how to, quote unquote, learn how to make a pop song in an hour, like, you can't, like, that, you can't, like,
It wouldn't be a
because
good one.
it's like, sure, because like, it only is as good as the creative aspect. Like, the best songs, like, yeah, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, there has to be soul in there.
I'm going on a tear, but it's like, yeah, it's you gotta like let yourself flow with it, like, as an artist. That sounds so corny, but like, you do.
Yeah, for sure. There has to be, you have to have some part of you, some part of your soul that's definitely within every creation. Otherwise, people aren't going to connect with it. It's just going to be something that anyone can do.
Exactly. Like, that's what gives an artist their own style.
Yep.
Word. As we start to wrap up, something that Cameron and I really enjoy doing is putting people who come on here on the spot by asking them to make what we call a statement of intent, right? So basically, it can be anything from I'm going to get this money, it can be as general as that, or it can be, I'm going to do X by Christmas and I'm going to do this by then, anything that you want to put out into the universe to, just you're trying to manifest, so you can take a sec. I can edit out the time you need to think. But Ibu, what is your statement of intent?
Hmm. I feel like one that I can definitely commit to right now is in 2022, in like the first 3 months of 2022, I'm gonna go get my own place, and that will be great. Just for creative process. It's been something I've been having as a goal for a while. The problem is New York City housing is just so expensive. So I'll be keeping my eyes out for some type of real estate crash, and hopefully I can go in and swoop at at the worst possible time for everybody else, but the best possible time for me. And yeah, I mean, that's just something that I think would be great. And the thing is, it's like, I'm not really, it's not like I needed a place to just go and never come and see anybody again. It's more like if I could have just a studio, like just a small studio where I can just have my speakers and my music set up, and I can go there and like make music and have some friends over and crash, and like doesn't need to be anything fancy, but just that little private space away from bothering like my family with the noise and whatever. And I think that would just really unlock a lot of creative time and creative potential for me. So that's something that I've been trying to do for a while, and I think I'm going to do it pretty soon.
Word. That's
what I'm thinking.
That was perfect. We appreciate you taking the time out of the day to join us for this episode. I thought this interview was great. I'd learning stuff that I didn't know about you, and I really like that. Before you go, do you have anything to plug?
I'm gonna be putting out a new song pretty soon.
Whoa!
So I'm making some visuals for it now, and I got more music coming out. So I would say if you thought that anything I said was interesting, my music reflects this kind of same mindset I have, and if you like this interview, go check me out on social media. Go follow my Instagram, Ibu Karel, IBUKAREL, and yeah, and check out the music if you want.
Where can we find your music?
You can find it on all platforms, also under Ibu Karel, IBU space KAREL. All platforms, whatever you listen to music on, it will be there. 99% likely.
There you go. Y'all heard it here. Make sure you throw him a follow. And yeah, we appreciate you so much for coming on, man. Thanks for doing this.
Nah, you guys are the best. Thanks for having me.
Of course, man.
Yeah, this was a blast, man.
Facts. You enjoy your evening, and again, thanks for joining us.
Sure.
And that was Ibu Karel. Great interview. Great questions by you, Cameron, by the way. Nice artist insight. I always like having you here for when we're interviewing artistic people, because I feel like, you empathize so much more than I ever can, just because, you went to art school and all of that.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Make sure you're following us on Instagram, on Twitter, at plan_C_podcast. Make sure you're checking us out on YouTube. We stream there every Friday. That's Plan C Podcast. Make sure you're checking out past episodes, whether it's some of the sports, some of the interviews, some of the bullshit, some of the anime talk, some of the Disney talk. It doesn't matter. It's all there for you. I promise you, if you don't like a single episode, you're probably wrong. Anyway, Cameron, you got anything else before we get out of here?
Not really. Just hope you guys are enjoying the Christmas cheer.
Yeah,
and big shout outs to, of course, Ibu Karel for coming on the pod. This album, This Too Shall Pass, on Spotify. Check it out.
Yep.
And hope y'all are chilling.
Yeah, seriously. Enjoy your Christmas. Stay safe. Get boosted, yo. Peace.